So if you were listening earlier on in its show, and again, don't worry if you weren't, you can go back to theroundtableradio.com. You can check out the podcast along with all of our expert contributors information on there and our videos of our segments. But if you were listening earlier on in the show, Mary, our financial planner on the show and our co-host right now, she was talking about what percentage of income do you need in retirement. And I thought that was a wonderful subject, Mary. I really do. It's a hot subject. And there's a lot of people on the fence right now that are actually looking to downsize, but they're waiting because they want to try to recoup as much money out of their houses as possible, right? And that makes a ton of sense. But what a lot of people don't know is that the market, yes, while last year we've seen some pretty huge price increases of like 10% or so, the price increases we do believe are going to be a bit slower this year, and we may be looking at a healthier market, and this is normal, of maybe a price increase of anywhere from 4 to call it 6%. Okay. Now,
and that's even pretty aggressive because as in financial planning, we use 2 to 3% conservatively. 3 seems aggressive to me. So 4 to 6 is still a healthy market.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it as best case scenario because these numbers here that I'm going to go over with our listeners make a lot of sense to me. And I think they will to our listeners as well. I like to kind of play devil's advocate here because while we want to net you the most money and sometimes it makes sense to wait, there's a couple points here, and you've made a couple good points I want to throw in here too, but there's a couple points I want to go over with you fairly quickly. So point number one being, look, you don't necessarily have to wait for that 4% market increase because right now with a serious lack of inventory on the market, and guys, I'm talking that most of our bigger towns and hotter markets like Cranston, Warwick, East Providence, Bristol even, all those towns right now, there's more pending single family homes in those markets than active homes. So with that said, without any supply on the market, you could bump your price up that 4% and you will have buyers going in and potentially even bidding on your house. Okay, now don't worry, let us fight with the appraiser to get your home price up. In most cases we can, and in some cases we can't. Well, you've got the absolute highest price for your house, and keep this in mind. When the market goes up, that 4% or so, you're probably going to have 2 to 3 times as many competition on the market, and it turns into more of a buyer's market so that the prices are actually going to fall. Okay, again, so it's like it's one of those catch-22 things. Right now is the opportune time to sell. And a point that Mary made earlier is the fact that money is so cheap right now, okay? And this is where you're going to benefit because even if you sell 4% higher next year or 6% higher next year or later on in this year, if you feel like that's where it's going to go, you're going to be spending that on a house that you're buying with higher interest rates potentially.
It's a shell game. When people say I'm going to wait for the market to go up, kind of like on their stocks or their mutual funds, the market can just as much go down too. And when you're holding a house, waiting for it to go up, you also have added maintenance and expense that you need to keep up with that could negate any benefit of waiting. And we were just discussing an article that was released yesterday on Go Local Prov about the 39 taxes, different municipalities and their tax rates. And the list will actually surprise you. Which communities are more expensive. It's not what you would think. For example, Block Island is the cheapest taxed community to live in. Who would have thought?
Yeah, of course. And the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are, you've got Central Falls at number 1, Woonsocket at number 2. You have Pawtucket at number 3, Providence number 4. I mean, and the reason being is because you've got all these out-of-state landlords paying all the taxes.
It's the municipalities being strapped, and Providence, as an example, the average is 13.2% taxes by percent of median income versus Block Island being 1.1%.
Yeah.
All things being relative, using same statistics in different communities. So it's something to consider when you're looking at selling your house is how much longer do you want to bear the taxes on it? Yeah,
exactly. So, and there's the only sin is not getting all the information together so you can make that informed decision. And we, again, work with clients for several months, sometimes several years before they're ready to go, but at least have that information in front of you. Be armed with that.